Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition live on YouTube and Twitter edition of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today, I am going to be talking about mental health. It is Bell's Let's Talk Mental Health Day, and everybody basically is discussing it and talking about mental health, and it's time to have a frank discussion about it and really, I guess you could say, just have a really, like a straight up discussion. And the key, the key here, is to think about what having a mental illness does to people, and especially those who suffer from more than one. Not many people just have a single mental health disease, whether it's ADHD, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, autism. They could suffer from, oppositional defiance disorder. They could suffer from OCD, compulsive disorder. There's numerous mental health issues out there and diseases that affect us every day. And the basic problem today is, even still in 2022, is that it's not widely discussed. Sure, Bell has their Let's Talk Day, and they advertise, and they do a 5 cents per tweet donation for mental health, and a lot of people participate, but we truly are lacking when it comes to how much support there is out there and how widely available it is for people. Now, for people who have like education and or excuse me like a career, and they have excellent benefits, and they get covered by their medical support and their health care to go and see psychiatrists or a psychologist on a regular basis, they have a much better chance of getting the help they need. But for those who don't have coverage and aren't able to go and get the support and see the psychiatrist or the psychologist on a regular basis, it's extremely difficult to get any help, and more often than not, it will end up becoming worse rather than better anytime soon. And it needs to be out there more. More people need to feel safe and feel the courage and the strength to speak out to their families, to their loved ones, to their employers, and not feel afraid of negative retributions by discussing their mental health issues. And I have been one since the beginning of September who has discussed my issues that I've been dealing with for quite a while now. And to be honest, it did take a lot of courage for me to speak, because I was definitely afraid of what people would think. I was afraid that people would treat me differently. They wouldn't give me the same amount of respect that I deserve because I was different and that I suffered from mental illness. I have CPTSD. I suffer from ADHD. I'm pretty certain, based on all the evidence out there, that I have autism. I also have, which of course needs to be diagnosed, I have oppositional defiance disorder. I likely have a learning disability, a language disability that, we're trying to figure out. And I suffer from a lot of anxiety as well. And it affects me on a day-to-day basis, which is really tough to do. When you have a job and you're trying to work and you're dealing with these things on a day-to-day basis, and you live with someone who also has a mental illness, your life can be very complicated. It can be very difficult to deal with every day, day after day, not really knowing what's going to happen by the end of the day when you go to bed. I have had a lot of complications. I've had a lot of problems. A lot of times where, due to either my autism or my ADHD, and as well, of course, as my CPTSD, when I get my parts coming online and they're being triggered because of a flashback to traumatic events from my life, they're causing a great deal of discomfort and frustration and harm, not only to my daily life but to my relationships. And I have a lot of strength and I have a lot of courage to get out there and speak my mind and tell people about my experiences. I know that it's probably not easy for most people out there to discuss openly with strangers about their own mental illnesses. And it's unfortunate, but I understand. Not everybody has the ability or the means, or just aren't ready yet to come out and talk about their mental illness to their loved ones or their family, mothers and sisters or brothers and their father. And then especially discussing it with their employers, because I'm sure a lot of you are afraid that if you tell your employer that you have a mental illness, that they're going to treat you differently, or they're going to, maybe you're in a position where they're going to fire you or let you go because they don't think you're reliable, which is illegal, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to try and do it anyways. Now, if you have been listening to my podcasts that are being put out every week, you are somewhat familiar with what I've been going through on a regular basis, at least for the past few years. Now that I am aware of the fact that I have multiple disabilities, but my life has been pretty much the same, like this, pretty much my whole life. Ever since I was a young child, I had trauma, and repeatedly, because I was brought up by a father who has a very short and angry temper. And when I was getting into trouble, or I would get into mischief and be a child just acting like a little kid usually acts, I would get disciplined in a very aggressive manner, and he would get extremely angry, and it went to the point where it created child parts. And I was so afraid of getting disciplined, because I knew what was coming, that it literally scared the crap out of me. Like there were times where I did something and I realized that even if it was an accident and I didn't mean to do it, like it's something stupid that I would do, I would be extremely afraid of having to tell my dad, or him finding out on his own that I've done something. And it got to the point where I had to really be careful, and I would do everything that I could to prevent the possibility of getting disciplined because of my behaviors, and because of the fact that he is the way he is. Now, he's a really great man, and he's raised a family very well. The only thing that neither of my parents really knew was that I had ADHD. I didn't even realize that I had it. And unfortunately, because of the fact that, when you have ADHD, you are not developed as easily as someone who, like, has a neurotypical mind. It's hard for them to live in a world and to properly develop. And knowing that this is occurring, it really can affect you when you're in a day-to-day basis. It's not easy. And I used to think, well, actually, I didn't really know what to think because of the fact that I only knew what I knew, and I didn't know that I was different than other people. Um, I wondered if there was something wrong with me. You know, there were signs and symptoms that were coming out that I, I kind of wondered about. And some of my friends later on in my adult life were wondering about maybe I had the possibility of having ADHD. And I did think about it, but it wasn't exactly the top of my list when it came to doing something because I was very skeptical and I didn't necessarily believe people when they said that this was a thing. And so I kept living my life and trying to be in a normal situation with everybody else. But there were so many signs that were too obvious. Not being very social, not having the ability to make friends or keep friends, um, little things like talking too much and not listening to people and not asking the person that I'm talking to about their day. Like, how are you doing? Tell me about your day or your story. I'd talk about everything and never give the other person any kind of an ability to be included or feel like they were being listened. I was giving the opinion that I was like a jerk or like really rude or inconsiderate to people. And so I had to learn the hard way. And being, to make matters worse, being bullied in school because of my disabilities and because I was not very social and I lacked the abilities to become, the person that was like, I'm not sure how to put it, to be honest. I just know that I was never accepted in groups. I was very talkative. I was very opinionated. A lot of it, as I discovered recently, is most likely because I am on the autism spectrum, and I may be mild on the spectrum, but it is enough that it affects my ability socially and with communication. I'm not very good when it comes to communicating with people, and there are other little things that occur because of it, but there's nothing, when you think about it, there's nothing you can really do because once it's there, it's there. And unfortunately, the only way to deal with it is to get help, like going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist and having them test you and see if indeed you do have it, and then having to learn that this is what's happening, this is how you're going to deal with it, what you need to do in order to get help. Like, it's it's one of those things that you learn over and over, eventually through therapy and through training. um, there I have been told that you can get training and learn how to manage to some degree your autistic symptoms, but the fact that you also have, along with me, CPTSD with my parts and then the ADHD. And now recently there's an ODD that is out there, the oppositional defiance disorder. It's really difficult to have a meaningful and successful life when it comes to social situations and relationships and in career. You know, it's one of those things that it's extremely difficult. What are you going to do? You can't sit back and just rest on the problem. You have to go out there and you have to find ways to get help. Um, I never knew, of course. I wish I had known that this was a problem. If I had known back in the day that, like, when I turned 18, if I had known that this was an issue with me, I could have had my help and made so much progress in the time since then. It's been 20, 25 years almost now since I've been 18, and I've fallen behind because of the fact that I never had any idea that this was happening. It would have been great to know about it earlier, but I can't make excuses. I've got to deal with it. I've got to find a way to push forward and to learn and see what is required of me to in order to get better. Now, I have learned a great deal about these disabilities. The fact that ADHD, you get impulse control problems, and you have listening problems and focusing issues, and the inability to complete tasks when you're doing projects. It can really affect you during your work. It also can affect you a great deal during like social situations and relationships. And the thing is the fact that autism and CPTSD can really be in there too at the same time. Imagine trying to deal with three or even four disabilities all coming in together and affecting you, and it makes it really difficult. It really does make life difficult to do the right thing and to be happy in life. It's very difficult to be happy when you don't have any answers and you have a lot of questions and you get a lot of frustration day to day because you don't know what you're going to do, and you are constantly being treated differently. You're not thought of as on the same level as other people because they see you are different, and they treat you differently. They don't respect you. They think you're subhuman, or you're stupid, or slow, or whatever. It's difficult to deal with, and it's difficult to live with all the time. I don't know how many other people out there are dealing with it, but the fact that it is out there, you soon learn either to push forward and to find ways to get better, or you end up suffering and becoming a shell of yourself, or you become like a hermit, or you become the kind of person that doesn't go out and doesn't ever meet anybody and stays at home all day because he's so afraid of dealing with people, dealing with social situations. And it gets to the point where you get so scared and your disabilities affect you so much that you really can't do anything. I'm fortunate that I don't have to worry about it. I wish other people didn't have to worry about these kind of things, because it is something that a lot of people don't necessarily know what to do about, and they try and they try and it fails them. I I have a lot of complications, and I have a lot of frustrating moments on a day-to-day basis. And the majority of the frustration is because I am trying to have a successful relationship with someone who I love very much and loves me back, but it seems like every day something happens, something goes wrong. I'm not able to do the right thing. I forget simple things. I am being defiant and disagreeing with her, even though I'm not knowingly doing it or trying to do it. It occurs, and I wish it weren't that. I wish this wasn't the case. I wish it was simple. I wish it was something that I could just go and say, okay, this is the way it is. I'm going to have to deal with it and go forward. But the fact that it's so hard to do because of the fact of the complications and how strong these things can be. Like, imagine living day to day knowing there's a good possibility, or there's a great possibility that you're going to mess up. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to do something that causes a great deal of frustration and grief and pain to other people. And you're not trying. You're not doing this on purpose. You are trying really hard to live your life and not make mistakes, not screw up, not do things that are going to annoy people. um, yeah, it is difficult. No one ever said that life was easy, but when it seems like you never do anything right, it gets to the point where a lot of people, I'm sure, would give up. They're not going to continue fighting. They're just going to say, "Oh, this isn't working. This is ridiculous. I just want to move on and stop worrying about whatever." And then if a lot of people who have ADHD deal with CPTSD because they experience trauma due to the constant harassment or bullying or being made fun of or being treated different, whether it's from family or friends or, like, it occurs all the time with people. And you need to not be afraid to get the help. And I know it's easier said than done. I get that. Not everybody's going to be able to do it. I know it's tough. I struggled a lot myself because I was super scared. I was so scared of doing so many things. Like scared of money, financing, scared of trying relationships, scared of everything. Like there's so many things that I could go over that I was afraid of, and the progress that I've made is incredible. Like, imagine, if you can, going from just dissociating and zoning out day to day and never going anywhere or hardly going anywhere. And only time you ever did go anywhere was to shop or to maybe go to a movie, go see your family, go see the odd friend once in a while, but not able to get out and experience life, not able to go out on a date, not feeling too scared to go and try and meet somebody new because all you were worried about was messing up, sounding stupid, dominating the conversation. It was one of those things that always happened. And it got to the point where it was crazy. It was ridiculous. And I gave up. I literally went nearly 8 years without a relationship because I didn't have the ability to try. I had no courage. I had no strength to go out and try. There were a couple times, and then the last one before I met my girlfriend was a disaster. It looked like it was going really well. We were having a good time, having a good conversation, and she basically lied to me to protect me and said, "Oh yeah, that was great. We should do this again sometime." And then it ended up not happening, and I never heard from her again. And that was like like a kick to the nuts, basically. I think I remember just giving up. I said, "Okay, I'm gonna stop." I closed my accounts. I wasn't on online dating. I didn't try meeting people. I gave up for like 6 months and just tried to work on myself. I remember I was really working hard on my health. I was getting into good shape. I was swimming on a regular basis, losing a lot of weight, eating healthy. Like my diet had changed, and it was the funniest thing is that I had only been back on the dating scene online for, I think it was a month, maybe a month, when I came across my girlfriend's ad on Match, and we hit it off. It just worked. It was like that perfect moment. and it worked. And here we are, nearly 3 years as of tomorrow, together, living together in the same house, in love, in a relationship, like together. And the amount of stuff that I have learned, like I learned through her that I have CPTSD. I confirmed with her that I have ADHD, and then just recently confirming with her that I most likely have autism, and then this oppositional defiance disorder that is so new that it's one of those things that you are learning about every day. Like you get to the point where you really don't know quite what to do, and you're trying hard to get there. You're trying hard to be happy, to feel comfortable in your skin. It isn't easy by any means. It is a very difficult thing to do, to have a relationship when you have a mental illness, like multiple mental illnesses. Imagine if you didn't have the help. Like, think about this. You don't have the ability to meet anybody, and you're alone. You don't have the ability. You don't have the money. You can't afford to go to a therapist, and all you know is you're going, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to do anything. I'm afraid to just be myself. I'm afraid to get out there and try to do more. You just end up being scared, and you fall back on the same thing every day. And every time you want to go out and be with your friends, you end up not being able to because you're too scared. You don't have the social skills. You don't have the courage. You don't have the ability to be out there and talk to people. So you end up just not doing it. I had that problem every day. Oh, I think I was probably dealing with that at least when I was 15 or 16 all the way up to now. Even being in a relationship, I still have struggles. A lot of it is autistic symptoms. A lot of it is my ADHD symptoms that come up. You really have to think about what you're doing every time. And the more you do it, you would think the easier it gets, but that is not reality. The reality is it's always difficult. It's always hard to do these things. And I wish I could say to people, yeah, it's easy, but the truth is it's not. It's not easy to do, to get out there and try and be brave and be strong. It's one of those things. I wish I'd like to be able to lie to you and say, oh yeah, this is easy. But it's not. It definitely is not easy. I know that it's difficult, and I've known for a long time. I guess I want others out there who are watching and who or will see this or will hear my podcast that you're definitely not alone. You're not alone. You do have others out there. You have family. You have loved ones. You have people that are on social media. Like, there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to be cruel and mean, but there's a lot of people out there that are going to be supportive and are going to say, be strong. You've got this. You can do this. Like this Bell Let's Talk Day, it is once a year, but it's important. It gets the awareness out there. It gets to let people know that, hey, you know what? There are people out there that suffer from mental illness every day of their life, and they never get any relief from it. And there are a lot of people out there that we don't even know that are suffering from mental illness. It is one of those things, and I wish that more and more people would know about it and would do the right thing and have an open mind and just listen to people. Give them an ear. let them feel comfortable and not be afraid to speak up and to say what's on their mind, to tell people about their issues, their mental illnesses that they're suffering from, how much struggle life is and how hard it is to get up in the morning and go to work and do the day to day. A lot of people don't have the strength and the courage to do it. They're too afraid because they'd rather just lay in bed or suffer in silence and put on a brave face. It's not easy for them at all by any means. I feel fortunate that I am one of the few who is not afraid to speak up and to talk about it. But I feel sad that there aren't more out there who are as strong and as brave as I am. I'm on here today to give other people who have mental illnesses the strength and to know that they're not alone, that there are people out there who have the same things and the same disabilities that they have and are dealing with it every day just as much as they are. Some people are able to get the help and can manage it, and then unfortunately there are many more of us out there who can't get the help and don't have the ability to handle it, and unfortunately end up either not being able to get through it at all and taking their own lives, or they are institutionalized because they just can't handle it anymore. It really sucks. It sucks really bad because they don't want to feel this way. They don't want to feel depressed or stupid or like raging inside their mind because they're scared or they think all these different things that are happening to their lives, and they don't have the ability to speak out and tell their best friend or their significant other or their parents that they're suffering from mental illnesses, that they're not okay. you know I wish more people would be open to listening to them and to give these people the ability to feel safe enough to talk about it. It is difficult, there's no doubt about it. um, I I had a long time before I was able to trust someone enough to talk about it, because due to my trauma and my triggers that were occurring, I didn't really trust too many people. I still, to this day, have a hard time trusting people because of the fact that I'm dealing with this while trying to live my life and wanting to be happy and be in a happy relationship and someday have a family. Um, as difficult as that may appear because of all these disabilities that I'm dealing with today, I still hope that I can do it. I do have the support and love of my partner, and I hope it will continue down the road. I'm very confident that there won't be any issues in the future, but being the way I am, I can't help but wonder, just a little bit, and continuing onwards and going that way. It will, I'm sure, get easier, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's not an easy thing to do. I deal with a lot of my mental illnesses by doing tons of research. I do my podcast to help myself and to help others out there who suffer from ADHD and CPTSD. But I also talk about, of course, autism, and I will be talking about other mental illnesses as well. My coping skills are growing. They are getting easier. I am learning to ground more. I'm learning to slow things down. I have my grounding tools like getting outside and getting exercise, going for long, hard walks, trying to do things that I enjoy doing, like podcasting and photography and drawing. Um, I am a bit of an amateur artist. I like to draw, and it's been difficult to do it these days because of the fact that I'm dealing with a lot of these things, and I just don't feel the motivation like I had in the past, but it's still there. I just have to work through the current problems in order to get back to that. Everybody out there, I'm sure, has their own things that they like to do, um, to help them get by and to help them survive each day. Um, Whether it's being on social media and tweeting out their day-to-day life, and looking for acceptance and advice and help from strangers or from people that they know, is important to many people. Their job can be their way of coping because they really, really enjoy their job. Even though life is hard, they enjoy it very much. It's one of those things that some people have an easy time with, and unfortunately, a lot of people out there don't, and they don't necessarily know how to handle it. Um, it gets to be too much at times, and they end up basically, I guess you want to call it, like becoming a recluse and staying at home, too scared to go out and do anything, let alone meet people, be social, and have a good time. That's the last thing that's on their mind when you think about it. I wish it were not a difficult process for people to get over these, you know, like through help and through hard work, and for a lot of these medication, so that they can have a better or greater chance of having a more normal life, and maybe having a really strong relationship, and getting to have great friends and not feel scared. It's, yeah, it's not easy. And I deal with it every day, of course, as I've said already. Um, yeah, it's kind of, some days it feels really difficult to go and, well, to get up and to get dressed and to work and to meet people and to talk to people. Uh, I I work with computers for a living, and that involves talking to people and interacting face to face with people all the time, and having to be, them trust you with your opinions, and what you tell them, like telling them that they've got a computer problem, or showing them that this is how you fix something, and they are trusting you. And if you don't feel safe enough to get out there, but you force yourself to, it can really make life extremely difficult because of the fact that you are pushing against your better judgment, like especially if you've got something like CPTSD, or if you have depression, or you have bipolar disorder, or you're an autism, like you have autism and you're on that spectrum. People, if they don't know, they're either going to treat you really strange or think you're a stupid idiot, or if they do know that you've got a disability, they're going to automatically treat you different. They're not going to think of you on the same path or the same wavelength. They're going to think that you're just too different to be normal, or to hang out with. So they're not gonna want to be around you. And that's a real thing, I'm sure, for everybody out there, is people treating you different and thinking in a different way because of how you are, and having preconceived thoughts and beliefs about you because they don't know really what's happening. Many, many people out there in the past, for many years, who have suffered from mental illnesses, were always treated in the wrong way. instead of being open and listening to someone and giving them the ability to have a voice and to speak their mind and feel safe was not always an option, which is really sad when you think about it. All those people out there who suffered inside and never told anybody or never revealed it until it was too late. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's so sad. I wish we knew. I wish he had said something." Well, it's very difficult when they don't feel safe enough to speak up and to say what's going on because they're afraid of how people are going to treat them, what they're going to think, right? They're afraid that they're going to lose their friends. They're afraid they're going to lose their fame if someone who's like famous, or that they're going to lose their job, or they're going to lose their husband or wife because their partner doesn't want to have anything to do with them because they have a mental illness. They're different suddenly. They're not the same person anymore. The reality is that they are the same person still. Just because they've been diagnosed or they come out with it and say that they've got a mental illness and they've been dealing with it for a long time doesn't all of a sudden change who they are as a person. Sure, you know something new about them and now you understand and you can see why they're struggling so much, but that doesn't make them a different person. That doesn't change their identity. And a lot of people out there are afraid of speaking up because of that. And to be honest, today, even still, I honestly don't blame them. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts to speak out and to say to people, I'm not okay. I'm dealing with depression, or I'm dealing with a mental illness, or I'm suffering from trauma. And life sucks most of the time because I feel pain and I feel sad and I am always dealing with these inner demons, and people have been unwilling to listen and to have an open mind and treat me the same because of these things. Of course people aren't going to be willing to speak up and say what's on their minds, especially people who perhaps were brought up with parents who believe that you got to be tough, you got to be strong, you can't show weakness, you can't show emotion, you can't cry. Men don't cry. Men are tough, men are strong, men deal with it, they push through, and that's their father who was brought up because of their father before them, in instilling this bullshit because that's how they were brought up and that's how they should be to other people. How does anybody expect to be able to just come out and, imagine saying to your father, things aren't right. I feel weak. I feel stupid. I feel hurt. I feel pain all the time. I feel sad all the time. There's things going on in my head that I don't understand and I'm afraid of. And then your father looks at you and goes, toughen up. That's stupid talk. That's wrong. Just get out there and toughen up. That's the last thing that someone wants to hear who's suffering from a mental illness. That could very well push them over the edge, and who knows what they're going to do, right? So we have to change the way we think. We have to change the way we treat these people who come out and say that they've got a mental illness. We've got to give them the same compassion and the same kindness and respect that we would give anybody else. They deserve it. Just think of how strong and brave they are to even speak about it to people. It's something that I wish more people could do because it's not an easy thing for people. We're well aware of that. There's still a lot of people out there that don't have the ability to speak up, and you got to be compassionate. You can't force them into doing it either. You can't say, "Oh, you can do it. Come on, you're better than that. You're big. You're strong. You can do this. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid." That's not the way you talk to them. You got to make them feel that not a it's not a bad thing to have a mental illness, that they're not different, they're not weak, they're not worse off, or they're not that people aren't better than them necessarily because of this. They have to feel that they can tell anybody and not be afraid of the retributions or the recourse because of telling someone that they have this mental illness. I I'm not sure myself if I'm ever going to be able to tell my family. There's a little bit of me that myself that is worried that telling them may change things to a certain degree. I don't want them to treat me different, you know? I want them to treat me just like they did in the past before all this. And that's what I'm afraid of, that if I tell them that things will change, and I really don't want that. I want I want to be able to tell them that I have these issues, but at the same time not treat or not change the way they think about me or how they treat me. You know, I don't want to be treated as someone special. I want to be treated as another person like everybody else. I feel much stronger and much braver today than I did in the past, but I'm not at that point where I'm about to tell anybody in my family. Um, who do you trust, right? You got to trust. Not everybody trusts people, um, and I don't blame them. How can you trust someone if you automatically are going to believe that they're going to treat you differently, or they're not going to want to be around you anymore, or that they're going to make fun of you, or that life will change because you've told a bunch of people that you have a mental illness? All that it can do is so negative and so destructive, even though the reality is that there's going to be many, 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 many people out there who are going to be there for you and are going to support you and aren't going to treat you differently and aren't going to abandon you because of this. You have to find your own way, and you have to find it yourself. Obviously, nobody can force you, you know, but eventually you can find that peace and that feeling of trust and knowing that there are people out there who will love you no matter what. I do struggle with that sometimes. I guess it's because it's still pretty new to me. I would definitely recommend that you try to get out there and try to talk to people. Try to tell your friends or your family about it if you feel safe enough, if you're ready to. Um, Not everybody is, and that's okay. Just the way it's gonna be, no big deal. Um, don't be afraid to get help, though. Honestly, just get out there and try and get the help that you deserve, that you've earned throughout your life. You should. No one deserves it more than you, because you deserve to have a happy life, to be healthy, to have friends, to be in love, to feel like you can tell anybody anything. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. There really isn't too much more to talk about. Perhaps the next time I do this, I'll have a bigger audience and I'll be able to get some immediate feedback from people. I know this is pretty new for a lot of people. Maybe someday there'll be more and more of you out there who will come and watch, and I'll be able to get some opinions and some real-time feedback from everybody. It'd be great. Honestly, for those who are going to be listening to this through my podcast, um, reach out. Let me know what you think. You know, let's talk. Let's, do something. Let's not just keep it hidden. You know, I'm here to listen. I'm here to give an ear or to lend an ear out to people who need someone to talk to. It could be about whatever you want, honestly. Reach out and let me know. I'm here for you. I'm always going to be here for you. Okay. I am on Twitter, of course. My handle is at ADHD and CPTSD. There is my website. It's www.livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. I have my Facebook page. I am on Patreon. You can subscribe through Anchor to my podcast for extra bonus material. I do have my YouTube page that is streaming my shows and also recorded shows, so you can catch episodes on there as well. If you are curious and you want to have a chat, you can definitely find me on Twitter. You can email me if you go to my website. I'm open to talking to anybody. I'm a very open-minded person, and I do not judge, because I know what it feels like to be judged for an opinion or for a thought or to express your feelings. And I don't want to be that to people. So reach out. Give me a shout. If you have any ideas for an episode on ADHD or CPTSD, let me know. All right, everybody. That's this episode, a special live episode that's on Twitter and YouTube. And I will have the podcast audio version out there on Apple and Google and all the other platforms for podcasts. Have a good rest of the week, and our regular episodes will be out on Friday and Saturday. All right, everybody. Have a great day.